If I had to single out one of the most impressive aspects of this ever-evolving analog horror genre, it'd have to be the fact that even though there are plenty of overlapping elements and themes, there is always that one instance where the series takes you for a turn and completely goes outside the bounds of what was thought to ever be explored in analog horror. Take Dog Nightmares, for example. Near the end of that series, we take a step back behind the camera and take things at a more cinematic approach. This is something I haven't seen done before in a lot of the content I have seen here. Granted, you can argue analog horror had its big budget break with Skinamarink, but even then, you don't see people try to do what that movie did. Can you really blame them, however? The reception for Skinamarink was so drastically divisive that I think only about 2% of people are indifferent about the movie and sit in the middle. Outside that small number, people either adore it for its artistic choices and atmospheric brilliance, and other people hate it for dragging on and not feeling like any substance is anywhere to grab onto. If you've seen my Skinamarink video I posted last year, you would know that movie made me feel a certain type of fear no other horror film has come close to achieving. But it's fair to say that the large negative reception that the movie had received might have been taken as more of a warning sign for this style of horror to stay where it was born, on the internet. However, I feel like in this day and age, the true creativity behind the likes of these analog horrors are starting to once again try and experiment a bit more and break that classic mold. And I believe this mini analog horror series, Doors, does just that. Granted, as I type this, I haven't seen Doors, but I have seen little tidbits here and there, and just know this is not like anything I've seen before. The only connections I can currently make between Doors and anything horror related would be the Roblox game, which is surprisingly very well developed and updated. I love playing it. So if this analog horror has any kind of correlation or reference to the Roblox game, count me in. But I also have a sneaking suspicion this analog horror series is not going to take itself easy on us, so without further ado, let's put on our protective gear and head on through. But before I let you get too far, just wanted to say if you're new here and enjoy what you're watching, be sure to hit all those neat buttons down below, including the subscribe and bell notification so you can be a part of every new upload. Also, real quick, just wanted to mention that as of this moment, me and some others are going to be at Phoenix Fan Fusion all 3 days, May 24th through the 26th. Not affiliated with the event in any ways, just going to have a fun time, so if any of you already have tickets or are planning on it, you might see some familiar faces. There will more than likely be more info and details as the convention gets closer, but anyways, now you can pass through. Doors. This begins as you would normally expect. You have your analog intro, which looks to be like TV programming until it very quickly hits us with rapid-fire instructions. I'm not too sure if I want to follow along with these fear assessment rules, but so be it. We are then asked how many doors there are in the house, then proceeded to be instructed to count the amount of doors. As of this living situation, it appears there are 4 doors in total. Doesn't seem like a lot. Very quickly, our door counting gets interrupted as this mystery narrator tells us that they have added a door. All the images of the prior doors were unsettling enough. I feel like it was very fitting to bring up Skinamarink earlier in this video because that internal fear reaction is starting to rebirth. However, the image of the added door just feels like it carries something much more sinister on the other end. Just the brief knowledge that there is now an extra door in your house. The opposite of Skinamarink actually, since in that sense, all the doors and windows were removed. After being introduced to this new door, we are immediately warned not to go looking for it, as it says looking for too long may lead to the house looking a bit unfamiliar, as if getting lost inside your own home. I gotta say, this is truly nailing the haunting visuals. The mere sight of Jonathan standing on the stairs facing the other direction truly invokes a feeling that's hard to put into words. We are not too sure what this entity is or who this text is telling us all these things. All we do know is they seem to be the thing adding a door and causing a bit of a ruckus. However, in this instance, it starts to become clear that this entity may currently be present and is currently standing behind Jonathan, watching as he continually gets lost searching for this door. Why is he so eager to search for the door? Who's to say just yet, but I have a feeling it's a decision not fully made by them. We learn that unfortunately, Jonathan did not succeed on his quest to find the door as it looks like a dark shadowy figure stands in place of where he once was. It's not clear as to what happened to Jonathan, but I am sure it is nothing good. We then cut to our next character to follow, Audrey. See, this is where things start to break the formula. In this instance, Audrey has filmed herself discovering the door, almost excited about it in a way.
Oh my god. I found it.
The loud bangs coming from the other side of the door is not enough to stop Audrey, however, from reaching forward and opening the door. What she finds inside is not something I want to see anytime soon. We learn from the text that Audrey has found the door, and once again we are reminded to not look for the door, as it seems the door will find you. We even get a neat little segment to represent us being found. Hold on to your butts, people. So yeah, I needed a change of clothes after that experience. The door slowly peeks open and this woman comes from behind. You see, I gotta be honest here, this woman looks like Audrey. Did something change her when she went through the door? Perhaps the door collects souls and uses them to go after other people. But all I can say is that smile on her face and that quick jump scare is going to be on my mind for the next few whiles. The last thing we are met with is just text saying, "There are many doors." Doors, Part 2. We start off with the same analog intro, except this time we get a second one for a video diary archive of some sorts. We immediately cut to found footage of someone hearing knocking coming from inside the room. When they peek in to investigate, it's clear there is something in the closet that is making all the noise. After the rapid footsteps, we turn back around to see the closet door open, and a hand come out from the inside, leading our character to run off. Smart decision, I say. We are introduced to this new character named Sarah, and it's revealed that she is the twin sister to Audrey. A couple of weeks ago, Audrey went missing, and we are played the last known voicemail left.
Hey Sarah, I hope you're doing well. I'm having the dream again. The dream about the door.
According to this message, the door is something that Audrey had been seeing in her dreams. It must have been an issue before that had a bit of a dormant period, to which for some reason, it's back and is haunting Audrey's dreams once more. She goes on to explain that she doesn't believe she is dreaming anymore, as the last time she saw the door, she was wide awake. She also reports that her house doesn't look the same as it used to, calling back to earlier warnings. It also seems as if my previous theory was correct, and something is compelling these people to go searching for this door. It's possible that in Audrey's mind, finding the door and opening it will solve the problem, even though I feel like anyone would agree that this is a bad idea and obviously a trap. Sarah explains to us that Audrey had become literally obsessed over this door. This next footage apparently has Sarah reporting the fact that she has just gotten another voicemail from her missing sister. If I'm to be real here, when it comes to analog horror, something that will immediately pull me out is if there is actual live-action acting, and it isn't great. By any means, it doesn't have to be perfect, but in most cases it's clear that's the one area they struggle in when it's attempted. But here, I gotta say, it only added to the immersion. When done right, I believe stepping outside these bounds really makes for something truly compelling. It's a very difficult thing to nail, but oh boy is it worth it once you get it going. Sarah continues on to play us the recording that Audrey had just left. And I'll let you be the judge if something sounds off here.
I just got a voicemail. I'm just gonna play it. Sarah? Why aren't you answering the phone? I can't find my way out. I think I'm still in my house, but everything looks different.
By the sounds of it, if we want to be optimistic and believe Audrey is still out there, Audrey began the quest to find this door, and as what normally happens, her house began to shift and become unrecognizable, leaving her lost. So lost that she now can't even find her way out of her house, to the point where she doesn't even know if she's currently in her home. It also sounds like we were correct on the fact that Audrey believed opening the door would solve her issue. Except in this sense, I relate more to her decision making as she believes that door will lead her out of the maze she's found herself in. On the other hand, it's entirely possible that Audrey is already a lost cause and who is speaking to Sarah isn't actually Audrey. but an imitation in the door realm to try to get Sarah as well. Sarah tells us that Audrey doesn't sound right to her, as I imagine she didn't sound right to all of you. She says she needs to find Audrey, and in order to do that, she's going to have to find the door. Sounds like this is exactly what this entity is desiring. Sarah described that she has discovered a book that has a chance of helping her. She drives 50 miles out of town to a bookstore where it's in stock, and we see as she goes and picks it up. Every mention of the book's name is blurred, however, so we are never sure what it is she got exactly. This book apparently contained the knowledge to show Sarah how to open the door, to which we are then met with the process. She draws a door on the wall alongside some fancy symboling around the top. Then she stands back and waits. We hear the door and the camera gets knocked back to show us a recognizable sinister figure standing in the doorway, to which Sarah doesn't seem to notice as she picks the camera back up. Upon reviewing the footage, Sarah can indeed confirm the figure in the door to be Audrey, except as we can also point out, something looks very wrong with her. Things don't end there, folks, as Sarah reports hearing Audrey calling out to her later that night. Sarah is right not to trust anything coming from Audrey's mouth, and her suspicions that she isn't really her has me standing right with her. Thankfully, Sarah stands firm and does not open the door. However, the following night, she reports hearing loud knocking coming from the front door. She runs through the door and peeks through to find an odd-looking man standing in front of her house, and, I'll just let you see the rest.
Hello?
No.
What? Who are you? Listen, you're at the wrong house. What?
In this instance, Sarah is pretty nonchalant about this clear inhuman figure standing by her, but by the end, it sounds like he was just a lost soul who wound up at her door by mistake on his hunt for his new door, I imagine. He disappears as the lights go out, and Sarah mentions that she believes the ritual she did led him to her place. The next bit of footage we see is of Sarah in the middle of the night, to which the events that take place, she has no memory of. It appears that these little lights could be simple spirits being picked up on camera, as it seems she jolts up right when they appear on the lens. She gets up fully out of bed, and in classic Blair Witch style, stands facing away in the corner, only to be met with something I honestly wish I didn't notice. The face in the mirror is just horror excellence, as it's just so subtle yet so effective. I could go on and on about how this is truly the most effective way to strike fear, into my heart at least. This series also knows how to really hold on to tension, and loves to drag it out as long as possible. It makes it almost unbearable to just sit there and stare at the screen as you can clearly see something looking right back at you. Sarah attempts to stay awake throughout the following night, but right as she almost dozes off, she hears Audrey once more calling out to her. Except this time, Sarah opens the door. We see as Audrey slides back around the corner and Sarah continues to go after her. After a little bit of following Audrey around, she finally becomes stationary on the ground, facing away. Sarah slowly approaches Audrey, trying to reach out to her. After the screen glitches, we cut back to footage of the door drawn by Sarah on the wall. We hold on for a bit too long for my sanity before we hear a final knock at the door. For a long time, those were the only two entries in this mini Doors analog horror. I didn't expect it to go into a story about two twin sisters and the horrors that have been going on in the background. It manages to ground you in the story instead of just trying to scare you with the intricacies of how the world works. You get relatable and meaningful characters to follow, and you watch as they try and survive this unimaginable threat. However, just a couple days ago, Part 3 got released. Will we continue on with Sarah and Audrey? Only one way to find out. Doors, Part 3. After getting our standard opening to this entry, it's revealed that this seemingly takes place the second after the last one left us off at, with Sarah reaching out to Audrey, who is facing away. The scene plays out about the same as last time, except this time we see past what happened, with Sarah waking up in this strange place. She walks around the corner and learns that she is in this weird area where things seem to loop around. The area she is in is accompanied with an old television, but there doesn't seem to be any way out. She turns and sees this man sitting on the floor leaned up against the wall. He says to "Leave me alone, Audrey." He looks up and we see he has these white glowing eyes, to which the television behind Sarah turns on. The TV switches to the image we saw earlier of Sarah and Audrey together, except in classic analog fashion, Audrey's face slowly begins to distort as the footage holds on longer. Once this is over, however, it looks to play a familiar tape. This looks to be what we watched in the first Doors entry, except without all the people wandering around lost. We see in the reflection Audrey standing behind Sarah, except when she turns around, she is nowhere to be found. After a couple turns, Audrey appears standing behind the TV facing away yet again. Audrey slowly begins to turn her head as you can hear bones cracking.
Audrey.
Seemingly too struck with fear, Sarah turns and runs away and manages to find an exit to the outside world. She runs out of this old abandoned-looking house and turns to find a door just outside in the middle of the dirt. That couldn't be any less ominous. Needless to say, Sarah turns and runs in the other direction, straight into the woods. She runs around the forest for a couple minutes before flipping the camera over to her, updating us on the situation at hand.
This is going nowhere. I have no idea where I am.
She walks on a bit further before stumbling upon another door that sits just in the middle of the woods. Not connected to any house or walls for that matter, just a door. It actually looks to have the same symbols on the door that the one Sarah drew on her wall. Perhaps this is a symbol that needs to be put on every door, or this is a way to show us that this is exclusive to Sarah, and it's her door. She peeks around to see that there is nothing on the immediate other side of the door. This is giving me heavy Monsters Inc. vibe, I tell ya. However, when she turns around, she sees another door. Except this one has the door handle rattling. Someone, or something, is on the other side trying to open it. Sarah walks up to the door and puts her hand on the doorknob before peeking behind it to see if anything is on the other side. Just like last time, there doesn't seem to be anything there. Yet when she turns around, she sees yet another door waiting for her. At this point, Sarah goes into a full-on sprint, running past each door to reveal an endless line of doors just waiting, one after the other. After a bit more running, she stops at one of the doors. Perhaps she sensed something is about to come through it. She unfortunately wouldn't be wrong to think such. Audrey walks out of the door, and we hear rapid footsteps running up from behind Sarah, seemingly tackling her over and dragging her into one of the doors. When Sarah comes to, she looks around the room to find that it is her house. She sees the drawing of the door on the wall, except when she looked around some more, she sees the camera sitting on its tripod, currently filming. But how could this be? She clearly has the camera in her hands. Well, lo and behold, she walks out of the door to see herself holding a camera facing towards her. After being asked by her alternate if she has yet to open the door, Sarah explains that she was technically pulled through it, to which the alternate tells her she needs to open it herself. It doesn't sound like Sarah is all too willing to go opening any more doors, to which the alternate didn't seem to like very much.
You need to open the door. So I can end up like you?
Sarah runs back into the room and goes to look out the windows. To her surprise, it looks like the outside is completely surrounded in brick. Even if she wanted to leave, she couldn't. Each window she checks bears the same results. She goes on to run back out of the room before a familiar entity pays her another visit.
You never came to find me, Sarah. I kept waiting for you to come find me.
Sarah tries to explain to Audrey that she had been looking all around for her and that she wishes she never went through the door. It appears Audrey has already been too far gone, as the voice we hear tells us Audrey is never coming back before she vanishes.
Audrey's never coming back. Audrey.
Sarah looks around for where Audrey could have gone, but when she goes to open the door to leave the room, that exit is now also covered in brick. Sarah is trapped in this room for eternity, it seems, as there is no possible way for an exit. As Sarah panics and cries at the front of the door, we see an actual door take shape over the one she had drawn on the wall. As the scene continues, we see the door slowly start to open, and on the inside, looks like some sort of vortex into somewhere unknown. This series ends on a final warning. You will hear a knock on your door tonight, and a door will be added to your house. Be sure not to look for the door, or else you may become lost. That, ladies and gentlemen, was Doors, a 3-part analog horror series created by Andrew Hyde and all the people who work on the High Strange TV channel. All I can say is this truly has the potential to get picked up and turned into a big budget film, I tell ya. This hits all the right marks in laying the groundwork for its analog horror setting, and then completely flips the script with the way the story gets presented. It isn't scary images cut together or security footage that we occasionally drop in on. Just about every scene in this felt like it had heavy production behind it, and you could really feel the work that these people put into this. The way the acting is able to immerse me even more than everything else was. It's astonishing that this was able to captivate me the way it did, and hopefully shocked all of you as well at just how well made the series turned out to be. I am pretty sure there won't be a part 4, as the description of this one claims it's the end of Sarah's tapes. I like how the entity behind the doors and where they lead is never fully answered and is mostly up to theories made by the viewer. For me, I can only imagine the doors lead to some alternate timeline of some sorts. I believe the scene where Sarah is talking to herself is a clear example. Except what we don't really understand is what happens to you after passing through. Did Audrey get trapped in a brick-filled room like Sarah did? Does this mean there's an entity that looks like Sarah now going through the doors? I'm not too sure, but I love the idea that it's all ambiguous in a way that doesn't feel unsatisfying. I definitely believe this series has so much potential in its world-building and creepy atmosphere. Enough so that I believe a full-length film told in this style would actually work. Granted, it wouldn't be easy to make something like this appeal to a general audience, but there's definitely an audience out there that would eat this sort of thing up.
Well, of course I know him. He's me.
I know I mentioned Skinamarink a few times already throughout this video, but that's the only feeling I can compare Doors to. It's able to take the visual and illustrative fears that come in a lot of analog horrors and brought it to life with a bit more of a found footage style. I truly loved every second of Doors, as it felt like there was no moment wasted. Every frame was strategically designed to instill a sense of fear, and that feeling lasts throughout the entirety of these 3 parts. I highly recommend you guys check out Doors, as it was fantastic, but that's about it for today's video. If you made it this far, I thank you so much for watching, and be sure to hit the subscribe and bell notification so that you can be a part of every next upload. But other than that, look out for that knock tonight. It might not be someone you know.